But in the meantime, it's a former consultant to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, Claude Barfield, on this whole China thing. I did want to get your sense, Claude, about how far this goes, because right now it seemed like we had the trade deal that was getting closer and closer. I think that there was a belief in China that neither ourselves or the Canadians would intervene or try to cause, any disruption with any Huawei official, let alone the CFO. And now just the opposite. What do you make of it?
Well, I actually think the Huawei situation is a kind of sideshow. I'm sorry. I think I understand how it happened. I think there wasn't a lot of planning. But now that we're into it, I think the United States has got to follow due process. I don't think we should be seeing as this sort of vendetta against her. But after all, there is evidence that she lied to banks in terms of covering up the dealings with Iran. So I'm opposed to the president intervening in a judicial process. Whatever I think about the original decision to go ahead and indict her.
Yeah, I would think that it would cause more of a fury if we did take such a move.
I agree. My point is that I think you've talked about the trade deal. I think those are separate issues. I understand why the Chinese are putting them together. The Chinese don't care one way or the other about due process, but I think we should. And while the administration may have made a mistake in terms of the timing earlier, I think they think they have a case, and it should just go through the U.S. courts.
If we are going to, ignore their kind of not so subtle strong-arming on this issue, which seems to be, look, this trade deal could be imperiled if you keep doing this, do you think they would just freeze on the talks, not do a trade deal? Would it be that blatant?
Well, look, it's not clear. As I say, I think this is a side issue, and it's not clear to me that they were going to do a trade deal anyway. I mean, my worries actually are that the president is under such pressure, either both in his personal, the near term for him personally, and also because of the things you've been talking about already, about the idea that the U.S. economy as well as the world economy may be slowing down, is that we will actually reduce the pressure on China for the basic structural changes that we need. I mean, I think Mnuchin and to some degree Kudlow's sort of happy talk about the fact that they're going to buy billions and billions of dollars from us is really a sideshow. We're still not getting at the most important things most important problems we have with them.
Claude, you know the Chinese far better than I, but I do know this much, that they lie a lot. They exaggerate numbers, they exaggerate economic performance, they exaggerate a lot of stuff. So I'm wondering, since they hoodwinked presidents going, far back to Bush Sr., to his son, to Bill Clinton, to Barack Obama, and maybe again with this president, how do we trust and verify stuff with them? Because saying that you're going to eradicate the deficit in 5 or 6 years sounds good, but you got to make good.
Well, you're not going to eradicate the deficit in 5 or 6 years, and this is the kind of populist economic ignorance that Trump keeps coming forward with. I think his advisors, the Kevin Hasses of the world, know that that's not going to happen. Or if it would happen, it would happen in terms of domestic changes in policy here that I don't see coming. But I do think that the basic issues that we have with China are the ones that should be on the table, and we should not be deflected from Chinese promises just to buy more soybeans or buy more wheat. What are they going to do about the Great Firewall and keeping Google, Facebook, and other of our companies and other international companies out? What are they going to do about the cybersecurity law, which allows them to enter source codes for high-tech electronic companies? What are they going to do about closed sectors that do not allow foreign corporations, not just U.S. corporations, but others to invest in China? What do they do about intellectual property theft? You talked about lying. Xi Jinping personally promised Obama in 2015 that the Chinese would no longer conduct economic espionage that they then turned over to their companies. We know now that that was a flat lie.
Yeah, and there are many more to go. Many more to go with that.
Lighthizer is correct.
All right.
When he says that we've got to see that this is enforceable, and we want to keep coming back. We keep coming back to you on a weekly or monthly basis. So
all right, Claude, I'm going to jump on you because of heartbreak has come whether we chat or not, my friend, but I very much valued your expertise here. We'll have more after this.